thank you all for taking time on a fall day here in Chicago to come and be here for our event. I again want to give a shout out to the staff and owner of Station E. We are now going to read from Silverlake Barrio.
First, I want to let's give a round of applause for the actors. And Ginger right over here for making it happen.
Yes!
Yeah. It'd be like a Ginger and Geo show. We should do a variety show.
We got the cameras on. Wait, I need to do makeup first. Who's going to do my hair?
And to Tita Jing, everybody here. A special shout out for my family and friends who came out. Donna is actually my first friend. When I first moved here, I was very, I barely understood my English when I first came here when I was 12, but she took me on. I've known her since I was 12, about 5 years ago.
Right.
So.
Right. That was
But I do want to say that this is a gift that we are given as artists, and there's a term that's called maktub, and it says that God came into your heart right before you were born and said, this is going to be the rest of your life. And I firmly believe that happened to me, and the people who really made that possibility happen is my Aunt Mercy and my Uncle Abel, who's a singer and a playwright. And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here today able to... So, I know I don't say that a lot. I'm not one of those people who will say that on my status, but definitely wanted to say that personally. And but most of all... Right, but most of all, the person who really said these words that we had a pretty hard life when I first moved here, but she said this won't happen to you when you grow up, because she worked 2 jobs when I was growing up, and that's my mother right there. He fell in love. No, really. He literally fell off his bicycle when someone on their rollerblades bumped into him on Lakeshore Drive. He fell. They both fell. And after they passed the initial who was right, and I'm so sorry bit, they both realized that maybe, just maybe, they were both supposed to bump into each other and fall flat on their faces that Wednesday afternoon by the Lawrence exit.
Who in their right mind would ride a bike or rollerblade in the dead of winter in the windiest part of the Windy City on Wednesday at 3 p.m.? Well, they both did.
Peter Lawrence, he said, getting up from the grass, dead grass. It would actually hurt him if it's on the bike path he fell. The dead grass provided a cushion for his face. It was filled with snow, so instead of a crack in his head, the right side of his body went numb. After wiping the snow off his frozen body, he offered to help. They were going in different directions, one north to Argyle to get some herbs, and the other to the Gold Coast for therapy. But both ended up at Cha'ava Cafe after passing Chase Park to stare at the naked trees.
They're not naked. They're dressed in snow, just like when you fell. They both smiled. Well, maybe the other smirked.
It's a different kind of sensation when one falls. A tingling sensation occurs inside the body, and in Peter Lawrence's case, outside the body. It stops. And although half his body lay frozen on the dead grass dressed in snow, time itself froze. It stopped altogether, and all one could hear was the wind whistling. They both concurred that this sensation was happening and didn't discuss it that day over roasted red beets and La Tortuga coffee, but simply stared at each other as the numbness of the right side of his body dissipated away.
900 seconds. You're crazy, she whispered, her arms wrapped around his chest in bed.
The pot calling the kettle black, he replied.
I just hide it better, she thought to herself, making sure he didn't hear what she thought. He twitched instead. Throughout the night, they lie in bed entangled like branches dancing in Bellingham. For some reason, when she was with him, everything slowed down. Maybe because her touch on his bare skin made him twitch.
Electric shock.
He giggled, then the body subsided. The fact that he was leaving for the other side where the leaves fell in color was a constant reminder for her to soften her smile. This way, she could hold every moment with him and not look forward into the future, because there were days when the future seemed so glum, so dark and gray, like the day's weather forecast. When they were together, everything was present. Now, there was no other way but to be inside the moment. She learned this concept from all the self-help training that she had mastered. A New Earth, Kabbalah, Landmark, Wayne Dyer, The Secret, every 12-step program imaginable. And more she refused to remember. It all came down to this: presence. Forget what happens when he walks out that door, when the trail of musk and bubblegum goes with him.
I should go.
Number 1, not to fret. She's gonna propose 5 more minutes, 3 more times, which means an additional 900 seconds.
Wolf. Hibernate. There's nothing like day being night all day. Come November here, the sun starts to hibernate, and you'll be lucky if you even get a chance to get a glimpse of any rays. Actually, he starts to retreat from the public eye in the beginning of October, and so does the rest of the town. Everyone starts retreating. Even the glaciers start to dim their light. It becomes a ghost town except Moose and Bear drinking 40s outside of Pit Bar. People are so afraid of being outside in the cold. No one's frozen to death here in town. Wait, I take it back. Last year there was a gal from Florida who ran away from home because it was too hot, so she came here in February and didn't have any winter clothes, and thought she could manage to wear shorts and a tank top at 3 p.m. They found her the next day by the gas station on Seward Highway, heading toward Mount Aliasca, frozen while crawling. I think she's still there. They put a plaque underneath that says,
Stupid girl.
I like it. Not the plaque, the cold. I like the idea of freezing and rubbing my arms with my hands or cupping them and blowing inside for warmth. There's nothing better than walking around downtown Anchorage when it starts to get dark again, noon, and breathe the air that's become ice. You can just see Mount McKinley looming from afar, smiling. During the summer, when the sun refuses to sleep, so does everyone else. People who are not even from here come up and stay awake with everyone else. It's repulsive. Number 1, for all the people out of their hibernation. Number 2, for the heat burning my skin. Number 3, for the noise it creates. When people hibernate, I get to roam freely outside and be myself. Horario. Abre los labios and smell shadows como los pajaritos del 101. Invading sueños, tienes más tiempito para volar. One becomes age on your sideburns and the hair on your chest.
A rock. She was named after a rock, which was also her great-grandmother's name. She was a gypsy from Alhambra. No, not Spain. San Gabriel Valley. Well, at least that's what she was told about her great-grandmother. who was the one who crossed the border from Juarez. I know. Why didn't she just go to Texas? No one really knows how she got here, hence the nickname La Gitana. In all honesty, she wasn't surprised that La Gitana chose that name instead of being called the Rock. 3 generations later, she inherited that name. The funny thing is, inside her body, she was also a gypsy. She could easily up and leave everything that she had, which was minimal. She'd always felt like a nomad and an outsider ever since the girls in her high school taunted her.
La piedra, chinita, tontarita, piedra.
Puta es tan tontas. It's with a T, not with a D. She'd whisper under her breath and just keep walking. Latinos could be such bitches, especially if you weren't one of them. But herein lay the problem. She had the same Carmela skin and nariz indio as theirs, but the eyes gave it all away. They were almond, like calligraphy. La Gitana didn't have those eyes, nor abuela, nor mama. Han, her father, her absent, non-existent, almost exiled father, is a Han, which constitutes 19% of the world population. Funny, so many Hans, and not one father. A minority at her high school, but not next door in Monterey Park. And here lay the other problem. Whenever she talked to the girls on that side of the tracks, they'd roll their almond eyes and cover marble skin, then talk shit through whispers. Actually, she didn't know which was worse, being called names out loud or being called names under their breath. And so she took to herself most of the times, listening to Julieta Venegas and Faye Wong on her iPod. Just like at this moment right now, 5 years later, listening to the same music as she stares at this rock, this massive rock turned into a wall, turned into a bridge that snakes through where her father comes from in a language she can barely speak, Simatai. And at this moment, she feels proud of her name, the strength of it all, and how the bruises those girls gave her now are scars of power.
She stands here, a gypsy in the early part of the morn, screaming her name out at the top of her lungs. We have a special guest.
My name is Albert, and this reading is called Molasses. It is a 2-block walk back to his place. Simple, cold, and crisp like back home, they bake. While she bakes, and he watches Adventures in Babysitting, and helps roll dough on raw cane sugar. Sort of. He watches her every move, like the vanilla extract sprinkled over his chest, or the pungent smell of the molasses. It's an old house. Could be seen as post-Victorian. Not from this millennium. From another time, like when he first fell. Like when he first fell at the lakeshore front, back home. Without an apron, she gently tussles his hair. He likes to spend his time with the barber. They talk for hours. Funny, it's called Sweeney Todd. But he's been there several times, and he has not been turned into a shepherd's pie. This reminds him of that first time he fell. Remember, it was winter, and he was on his bike, and the other was on rollerblades? Snowless, but the texture seems similar. The kiss, the night, the molasses. Thank you.
There are tears in your voice, he said as he walked away and closed the door behind him. They met that night, and he bought her a couple of Merlots.
From Mendoza, she requested. It reminded her of home, the timbre of the wine, the odor, the body. It'd been a couple of years since she'd gone back, but the taste brought her to summer vacations when her mother would allow her to have a glass of wine for dinner at 10 p.m. Tonight's song, When Doves Cry. She picked them while still singing. She saw his ginger goatee and knew by the way that he was getting intoxicated by her voice that he was tonight's sleeping pill. I'm from Cardiff and just visiting Edinburgh for the night, he said to her like a boy lost in a club. And I'm from Buenos Aires. I got lost here in the Castle Dome Rock, she smiled. A different city, a different man. He was her type. Goofy and cute at the same time.
Jared.
Carolina. Beautiful. Deal sealed. Usually when they offered their name. In a platter of compliments to her, she knew that she was going to have a good night's sleep. Sleep decided to stay home when she left. She tried to look for it in her luggage and carry-on bag, even in her makeup kit, but Sleep was nowhere to be found. She realized not any time sooner that she would have to borrow other people's in order to get 5 hours of euphoria. Yes, she tried Ambien and Benadryl, but none worked. Sleep with me tonight. It wasn't necessary to say it out loud. A look would do. By the time Shape of My Heart was over, she knew that he knew where this was heading.
There are tears in your voice, he said after the song.
To seem inconspicuous, he had to pretend to lead first. She, on the other hand, had to bid adieu or ciao or note to the audience.
Utot. Utot ng utot nga ni si Kuya Kiko. Kesa man na nga na nagigising sa umaga na ang katabi ng bitana ay baboyan ni Tito Boy. Tapos ang katabi sa binig ay si Kuya na imbes na naghihilok ay umuutot. Mga alas 4 pa lang, nagkakantahan na rin ang mga manok. Pagising nila, alam namin na kailangan na namin magising. Napakaaga pa. Tulog pa nga ang langit pero sabi ni Tito Boy nagising na ang mga isda kaya kailangan namin na pumunta sa gubat. Sakay kami sa tricycle. Sa tricycle niya, tuloy kami mga magbiyahe mula sa dilim ng Sumanga at papasa sa bayan bago makarating sa gubat. Ang sarap ng simoy ng hangin, kasing tamis ng calamansi juice. Halos nakalimutan ko na nga ang amoy ng humba na lumabas sa puwet ni Kuya Kiko kanina eh. Anak, Pedring, dini na ang mga isda. Sunod kaming magpinsa sa tubig na hawak ang fishing net. Naroon nga si Tito Boy. Lagi siyang nauuna at hinahanap ang pwesto ng mga galunggong o bangus o dilis. Depende sa araw. Wari naghihintay kaming ng 3 oras at walang sumipot na isda. Ni isa hindi nagpakita. Tonggo na nga ni. Tinakot kaya namin? Pero mula sa panahon na nakaala-ala, ako'y laging may nagpapakita. Kuya Kiko, baka naamoy utot mo. Gago. Tapos, may nakita kami na lumulutang. Naku, sirena kaya o patay na katawan? Medyo natakot ako dahil kagabi, napanood ko namin yung Shake, Rattle, and Roll sa bagong VHS na bili ni Tito sa Saudi. Ingat lang, sabi ni Tito Boy. Nawari ko'y takot rin. Nang laki niyan, kung isda yan. Pero hindi kasing laki ng tao, kumikintab. Parang umiiyak. Hindi amoy isda, amoy sampagita na binibenta ng mga bata sa kali ng Banawe. Tapos hindi na nakatuloy sila si Tito Boy at Kuya Kiko. Parang hindi nakagalaw, pero tinuloy ko. Hindi sila nakailing. Nilapitan ko yung hindi isda, yung hindi tao, pero ang aking nakita ay kalungkutan. Hinawakan ko ito at hindi siya gumagalaw. Ang lakas ng amoy ng sampagita.
Hinagpit ko itong kalungkutan at dinala sa lupa. Mula noon, nalaman ko ang aking gagawin. Hindi ako magiging mangingisda kung hindi mangangaramdaman.
From that day on, I realized what I was going to do. I will not sell fish for a living. I will sell emotions instead.
Get yourself healthy now. $15. Get one for a friend or a family member. You know the holidays is just around the corner. And he only does have a select inventory here. So